There is no glory in war, only sorrow, suffering, and illusion. If the people of the world could but see it all, there would be no more wars. We may be young in years, but old in sorrow. A generation of youth is being lost in these dread years. Australia's involvement in the First World War began when Britain and Germany went to war on the 4th of August 1914, and both Prime Minister Joseph Cook and opposition leader Andrew Fisher, who were in the midst of an election campaign, pledged full support for Britain. The outbreak of war was greeted in Australia, as in many other places, with great enthusiasm. The first significant Australian action of the war was the Australian Naval and Military Expeditionary Forces landing in Rabaul on the 11th of September 1914. The Australian Naval and Military Expeditionary Forces took possession of German New Guinea at Toma on 17th of September 1914, and of the neighbouring islands of the Bismarck Archipelago in October 1914. On the 9th of November 1914, the Royal Australian Navy made a major contribution when HMAS Sydney destroyed the German raider SMS Emden. On the 25th of April 1915, members of the Australian Imperial Force landed on Gallipoli in Turkey with troops from New Zealand, Britain and France. This began a campaign that ended with an evacuation of Allied troops beginning in December 1915. The next year, Australian forces fought campaigns on the Western Front and in the Middle East. Throughout 1916 and 1917, the losses on the Western Front were heavy and gains were small. In 1918, the Australians reached the peak of their fighting performance in the Battle of Hamel on the 4th of July. From the 8th of August, they then took part in a series of decisive advances until they were relieved in early October. Germany surrendered on the 11th of November. The Middle East campaigns began in 1916 with Australian troops taking part in the defence of the Suez Canal and the Allied reconquest of the Sinai Desert. In the following year, Australia and other Allied troops advanced into Palestine and captured Gaza and Jerusalem. By 1918, they had occupied Lebanon and Syria, and on the 30th of October 1918, Turkey sued for peace. For Australia, the First World War remains the costliest conflict in terms of deaths and casualties. From a population of fewer than 5 million, 416,809 men enlisted, of whom more than 60,000 were killed and 156,000 wounded, gassed, or taken prisoner. Thousands of servicemen enlisted from the Newcastle and Hunter areas. We remember and honour their service. Over 2,000 did not return home, and they are buried in Commonwealth war graves dotted around the Belgian and French countryside and on the Gallipoli Peninsula, or in memorials such as the Meningate and the Villers-Bretonneux Australian National Memorial. More than 3,000 Australian civilian nurses volunteered for active service during the First World War. While enabling direct participation in the war effort, nursing also provided opportunities for independence and travel, sometimes with the hope of being closer to loved ones serving overseas. The women worked in hospitals, on hospital ships and trains, or in casualty clearing stations closer to the front line. They served in locations from Britain to India, taking in France and Belgium, the Mediterranean, and the Middle East. Many of them were decorated, with 8 receiving the Military Medal for Bravery. 25 died during their service. We remember and honour the service of nurses in World War I, who saved thousands of lives, provided comforting care, and were essential to the war effort. Today, hundreds of Australians travel each year to the sites of World War I to remember family members or to learn history about this important event in Australia's past. Families travel together, solo travellers go, couples explore the regions, and study tours from high schools and universities learn about Australian history through hands-on excursions.
Loitering in a country town, because I had time to spare, I went into an antique shop to see what they had there. Bikes and pumps and carol lamps. The old shop had it all. Then I was taken captive by the Anzac on the wall. Such an open, honest face, a young man in his prime, and when I looked at the photograph, his eyes locked onto mine. A face so proud and confident inside a wooden frame, I felt myself drawn to him in a way I can't explain. "That Anzac have a name?" I asked. The old bloke didn't know. He said, "Those who could have told me passed on long ago." The old bloke kept on talking, and according to his tale, the photo was unwanted junk bought at a clearance sale. I asked around, the old man said, but no one knew his face. He's been up on the wall for years. He deserves a better place. Someone must have loved him. It seems a shame somehow. I nodded and said quietly, "Oh well, I'll take him now." "So you come home with me, mate. Too long you've been alone. I don't even know your name, mate, but you're welcome in my home. Did you fight in Flanders, or perhaps Gallipoli? I'll never know the answer, but I know you fought for me. I wonder where they sent you when you answered the call. Were you killed in action? Did you have a home at all? You must have had a family. Will you be claimed one day? To be honest, mate, I hope not, because I'm proud to have you stay. Sometimes visitors look at you, and when they question me, I tell them all a small white lie and claim your family. They say, you must be proud of him, and I tell them, one and all, that's why he has pride of place, the Anzac on the wall.
Close links between Australia and France were forged forever in the heat of battle when young Australians were sent to support British war efforts against Germany. Today, hundreds of Australians travel each year to the sites of World War I to remember family members or to learn history about this important event in Australia's past. Families travel together, solo travellers go, couples explore the regions, and study tours from high schools and universities learn about Australian history through hands-on excursions. When the Australians came to France, the French people expected a great deal of you. We knew that you would fight a real fight, but we did not know that from the very beginning you would astonish the whole continent. I shall go back tomorrow and say to my countrymen, I have seen the Australians. I have looked in their faces. I know that these men will fight alongside of us again until the cause for which we are all fighting is safe for us and for our children. In April 1918, the battle for the Villers-Bretonneux became a decisive turning point when this French village was liberated by Australian troops in a daring nighttime raid. The April 1918 victory began a close and familiar bond between the two countries. Captain Clarence Jeffreys, V.C., was in charge of a company of men, pinned down by intense German machine gun fire. He saw that their situation was desperate and deadly. With Sergeant James Bruce, a 39-year-old Scottish-born miner, who had worked with Jeffreys' father at the Abermain collieries, and several other men, Jeffreys managed to approach the fortified enemy pillbox from behind and attack it, capturing enemy prisoners as well. He was mortally wounded during the attack and died on the fields of Belgium. He is commemorated in a stained glass window in St. Luke's Church, Wallsend. In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them, lest we forget.
Should I fall, grieve not. I shall be one with the sun, wind, and flowers.